Today on 100 Huntley Street, it is Digital Parenting Week. We're going to share some quick tips to help families stay safe and connected online. Plus, a radio station in the Maritimes that's been bringing hope for over 20 years, and it all starts right now.
And welcome to 100 Huntley Street. We're so glad that you're able to join us. Yeah, so today we're talking about Digital Parenting Week. And maybe some of you are even watching this show digitally, maybe on your iPhones or your iPads and laptops. It has completely changed the way that we watch stuff today, don't we?
Yeah, I know. And I can only imagine parents thinking like, what's out there on the internet, what's available to kids, the kind of rabbit holes they could go down. But what I like about this Digital Parenting Week is that it's both plus and minus. So they're not just saying this is a week to talk to your kids about the evil of the internet. Right. Yes, it is that. But it's also to talk about the power of the internet and how you can use it for good, how you can use it to help you, to research, AI, like what are the benefits, what are the minuses? How do you moderate your screen time so you're not going crazy and binge watching? Like we've never done that, Joe. Binge watching something, you have
to watch it live, and if you missed it, too bad. You have to wait till next week.
It's so true.
And so I've become that uncle. I'm always saying to my nephews, when I was your age, we didn't have that. Like, oh no, I promised myself I would never become that guy, but
I had to walk up a hill, and it was uphill both ways in the snow to school. Is that you, Joe?
Not quite that intense,
okay.
But, things definitely have changed because you can be sitting at the kitchen table and watching your favorite show, find out what's happening in sports, and just be connected. And so I think parents really have to find that balance on digital time because we didn't have that. Like with our kids growing up, maybe you'd put a VHS in, you guys remember VHSs, and put on a movie for them to watch so you can get something done around the house. Now it's so easy if the kid's in a bad mood, didn't get a nap or whatever, just throw them an iPad and keep them quiet. And so I get why you'd want to do that, but it's also dangerous, and you have to make sure that you engage the child and keep them in the real world as well. So
it's true, and also I think as parents, a lot of times we're bad examples, right? Aunts and uncles, like we're on our phone all the time too. So we can be hypocrites. But here are some ways that you can celebrate. So
good.
Okay, celebrate Digital Parenting Week by committing to a screen-free family day. Turn off all screens, and I know kids will probably hate this, but you're helping them. You're going to spend quality time. You could play board games, you could cook together, you could get outside, play sports, go for a walk.
Yeah, I'm all for doing other things, but you lost me at board games because it's actually in the name, board games. So I'm going to encourage you still, put your phones away. Yeah, go outside, it's fall, rake the leaves and then jump in the pile of leaves. I don't know, do something fun. I don't know why I struggle when I see people all sitting at the table and everybody's on their phones and no one's looking up at each other. And you're like, human in the room. So it's very important to take that time. A whole day?
A whole day.
All right, let's see if they can do it.
You could also do a digital detox challenge. So you could ask every family member to reduce their screen time for a week. So you put up like a big, a whiteboard, and then track it over the week, and then have a prize for who was the most disciplined this week. So give them some motivation to actually do it, right?
That's a great idea, and I wonder if people are going to do that. And then don't do it on your iPhone.
Don't track it on your iPhone.
No, get an actual whiteboard or else it defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, pretty much. Good tip there,
Pastor Joe. And all kidding aside, though, it's really important to have those conversations with your children because kids have access today to things that we didn't have access to, when we were their age. And it's just so easy to sit there and you can just pull up whatever you want. And so it's important to have those conversations with your kids. It doesn't matter if your friends are doing it. Let's make good, godly decisions about what we allow to come on our screens because the old adage is true, garbage in, garbage dust
That's so
come out.
True. I really like this one. I just want to make sure to throw this in because we've been talking about the dangers, but you could also use digital tools to create art, use drawing apps, photo editing, making music.
Yeah.
So also teaching kids that there is an artistic value to that. So there's so many ways. You can go online, look up Digital Parenting Week, get some examples of what you can do, and I think you could have a lot of fun with your family. But are you overwhelmed by all this, Joe?
Sometimes we could feel a little anxious with all this, but don't worry, don't feel anxious, because right now we're going to go to a great Bible teacher, Christina Baker, who's going to help us with anxiety.
I have had so many moments in my life where anxiety has taken absolute control over my mind, my heart, and every single part of it just started to seep into every part of my life where I didn't know what to do. In fact, I remember years ago, before I met the Lord, I was standing before a judge and I knew what was on the line. I knew that that judge held my fate in his hands. But we know that God holds our fate, our lives in his hands. And it wasn't, I remember, really, I can't sit here and say I was innocent either, but I had just given my life to the Lord, and I had asked him, God, take care of my baby. And I thought maybe I had surrendered, but I hadn't, because the scriptures tell us this: be anxious for nothing, but with everything, with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God, and the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. It reminds me of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He knows what's about to happen because he's God. The Father showed him what was coming. So he says, let this cup pass from me. And he's going through a medical condition, hematurnosis. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And it is an actual condition where Jesus in that moment was under so much psychological, physiological, and mental stress that blood was seeping out of every pore in his body. But he teaches us something in this, because it's what we do with the anxiety that changes everything. Jesus says, Father, let this cup pass from me. And we know what the Father says, and the Father says no. And he says, nevertheless, not my will be done, your will be done. And if you remember, I would always read over this, but he gets up, and when they came with their torches, it says they fell over like dead men. Because when we're anxious, it brings the power of the Spirit of God within us to overcome adversity and to overcome anxiety. So I just want to encourage you today that whatever you're going through, I pray that the Lord would fill you with his peace, shalom, and that he would cover your heart and mind with only the peace that he can bring, not of this world, but the peace of God that passes all understanding, to cover your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. God bless you.
This month, as our thanks for your ministry support of Crossroads and 100 Huntley Street, we're excited to offer the book A Minute of Hope, 100 Intentional Prayers for Times of Challenge and Change by best-selling author Christina Baker.
My prayer for you is that when you take that minute to just breathe, look at the Lord, and begin to pray, you'll go off into a time with God that is very personal and intimate and beyond what is even on the page.
These prayers meet you in life's trials when you need peace, wisdom, forgiveness, or strength to keep going.
Take a moment to look at the Lord and pray and encounter his presence, because the scriptures tell us that when we wait upon the Lord, that he'll renew our strength.
With a gift of $30 or more, or when you become a new monthly partner, request your copy. Call 1-800-265-3100 or visit crossroads.ca/minute.
Well, we were talking about Digital Parenting Week, but I don't know if you know this, but part of our digital initiatives is that we have a digital pastor. He is there at crossroads.ca when anybody wants to chat, ask for prayer, or ask a question. He's there to chat with them. And somebody wrote in recently and said, I just want to say a huge thank you to you and your team, specifically for taking time to pray for me and write out this encouragement. I have read the email that you followed up with me on a few times, and I am holding on to it so I can go back to it when I need that encouragement and reminder that there are people out there that care and pray. You are such a support. What a powerful ministry this is. Building people up through compassion and intercession. You are, all capitals, awesome. This is the kind of impact you are having. When you give to support this ministry, you are impacting people like that you will never meet, but you are changing their lives, and you are a lifeline of hope for them when they need it. That's why we ask you to come alongside us and support 100 Huntley Street. We can't do it without you, but together, wow, God is at work. And I hope you know that today. I just want to encourage you with that. When you call with your best give, 1-800-265-3100 crossroads.ca/minute, we will send this book out to you. These prayers are amazing. Christina is amazing, and I know it will encourage you in your walk. Well, now we are taking you to the Maritimes, one of our favorite parts of Canada, with Lara's next guest.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, across Atlantic Canada, a quiet revival is rising through the airwaves of Inspire FM. For more than 2 decades, this ministry has been broadcasting hope and sharing faith from Moncton to Halifax, reaching hearts across the Maritimes with the message of Jesus. Today, Dr. Terry Branscombe, CEO of Inspire Christian Media Ministries, joins us to share his personal story, his passion for ministry, and what he sees God doing right now on Canada's East Coast. Dr. Branscombe, welcome to 100 Huntley Street.
It's awesome to be here, Laura.
Well, it's such an honor to have you join us today. You know, I'm such a fan of what you do through Inspire FM and the way you reach hearts with the message of Jesus across the Maritimes. You know, Dr. Branscombe, your journey into following Jesus and feeling called into ministry happened at a young age. You're about 15 years old. Tell us about your early faith journey and how God led you.
Absolutely. From now on, just call me Terry.
I thought you would say that.
That's right. I'm just a farm boy. 15 years of age, had been going to church and Sunday school all my life, but never really understood what the gospel was. Working on a term paper on the origins of the universe, thinking about Big Bang Theory and so on, and the concept of millions of years. And then I got thinking about where was I going to be millions of years? Well, I couldn't comprehend that at all. I got to think about where would I be even 100 years? And all of a sudden, I began to realize that if there was a heaven, I wasn't going to be there. I knew that I wasn't a good guy. And all of those Bible verses that I'd memorized now began to make sense. And I felt the presence of God. I felt fear, remorse, a godly sorrow, began to weep, asked for God to forgive me, felt the presence of God, was born again in my bedroom, alone. The next day I went to school, grade 9 it would be, at Petitcodiac Regional High School, and the guys noticed that I wasn't acting the same. I didn't tell anybody. At any rate, fast forward, I'm a new believer, excited about my faith, and it's probably about 6 months or so later, and in grade 9, in those days when the dinosaurs still roamed, we had to choose whether we were going to go into academic or shop or commercial, and so I got thinking about what am I going to do? You know, God, what do you want me to do with my life? And the only thing that made sense was ministry. And I shared with a Christian high school teacher, Mrs. Fran Jones, who's still a very dear friend to my family and I shared with her what I felt God saying, and she began to weep. And she said, I've been praying for you. That became a defining moment in my life, Laura. I knew that God had made me to work for him, to serve him, to be what God wanted me to be. And so all of those other kids in school that are struggling with identity and purpose and what am I going to do with the rest of my life, I never struggled with that. So I actually started studying Greek at 16 years of age on my own, went to my pastor and said, I want to serve God for the rest of my life. And so this young pastor got me teaching, preaching. I remember my first sermon, a dog came forward at the end of the service.
Like a dog, like a puppy?
Yeah, a dog, a farmer. It was a little country church. The windows were all painted shut. It was hot. The back door was open. And just as I'm giving the altar call at the end of the service, this little country Baptist church, a local farmer was sitting at the back, and his dog came in to find him, but walked to the very front and sat down and looked up at me just as I gave the altar call. My grandmother has reminded me ever since I'm the only preacher that can even get the dog saved. So, but seriously, that was a defining moment. And so all of these years, I'm 64 years of age, that's what's filled my mind. I've not always walked with God. I have had struggles, which we'll talk about. But that's how it all started.
Well, it's beautiful. You know, you've referenced the Bible verses that you memorized, and I know your family exposed you to church and brought you to Sunday school. You've referenced your grandmother and the power of family in your life. You're also a family man today, married with kids. What's that like for you?
It's a blessing. It's amazing. I think it was Billy Graham that said that God's grandkids are God's way of rewarding you for not killing your teenager. And I am blessed. 2 adult children that I love. They live near me. I have good relationships with them, and 5 amazing grandkids, ranging from 6 to 19. That, it's precious. It certainly
Beautiful.
is.
Well, you've mentioned this long journey in ministry. I mean, it spans 40 years. And some of the highs and lows, that you did experience through ministry. Tell us a bit about some of the ministry positions you held and some of the challenges and how God met you and what growth looked like.
Yep. Started as a little country preacher, 18 years of age. The Bible college that I attended, the president of the school called me into the office. I thought I was in trouble. And he said, no, he said, there's a little church looking for a preacher. And he said, I've recommended you, 18 years of age. And so I started my journey. I had taken evangelism explosion training at 16 years of age. So I went door to door, knocking on doors, cold calls, sharing the gospel with people. Thought I was going to be the next Billy Graham, right? 18 years of age. About a year later, was actually considering dropping out of school and just going to go full hog into ministry, and realized, though, that I just didn't have what it took. There's a book John Maxwell has written called Talent is Not Enough. And the rigors of a college education, the rigors of studying Scripture and learning Greek and Hebrew and sitting under godly men who are training you has made the difference for me. From being, as one pastor said to me years ago, you can be a sword used for the Lord, or you can be a sharp sword. Go and get your education, become as sharp as you can be. And I thank God for that advice.
Throughout all those years of ministry, have there been moments where you've had dark nights of the soul, where you've experienced challenge? I can think of my own experiences like that. And then how did God meet you in those moments and bring you through them?
Probably almost 25 years ago now, I had stepped away from ministry. I had been wounded, been involved in church planting. Things didn't go well. And people that I trusted, I felt abandoned. Part of that was my own personal issue. It had nothing to do with ministry, but was called to serve and help restart a church. So I moved my family there. We built a home. We began to put our shoulder to the grindstone, as it were. And 4 years in, we had gone from 6 senior citizens to about 60 adults, 35 or 40 kids. We were in a building program. And there were a couple of people that didn't seem to appreciate the changes. And so there was a decision made by leadership to end my responsibilities. It came very much as a surprise and a shock. In the aftermath, I lost my home. It was a very difficult time emotionally. I've never struggled with depression, but that really was a very dark time. And I thank God that He sustained me through that. It was very, very challenging. But years later, in fact, probably 15 years later after that, so about 10 years ago, I was in another country teaching. And all of a sudden, I realized why the Lord had allowed me to go through that suffering. Because the group of people that I was doing leadership training with in this other country were suffering. I could never have understood or have had any kind of compassion to serve them. And so God never wastes a hurt.
No, He certainly doesn't.
Yeah.
As you're speaking, it's hard for me not to think about the person watching right now who might be in ministry and experiencing a challenging season, because I think if you're in ministry long enough, eventually you will experience that, because we are human, and humans are broken, we are fallen, we hurt one another. What would you say to the person right now who's feeling discouraged in ministry and wondering about walking away, and yet here you are, someone who walked back in to serve the Lord? What would you say to them?
I'll say, first of all, I've walked away 4 times. I've left ministry 4 times in 40 years, broken, angry, hurting, angry at God, angry at the church, and then made the decision, as Rick Warren would say, to get better rather than bitter. So if you're in that place right now where, I just don't know what to do, first of all, acknowledge the fact that you are in a spiritual battle.
Okay.
You're not in a vacuum. There is an evil one, and there is a culture and a world, the world, the flesh, and the devil. Jesus would describe it, and the Apostle John would describe it. And so I think recognizing that you're in a battle, number one. Number two, recognize your limitations, that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be all things to all people. And then thirdly, reach out. Reach out. I know we have a prayer line here in your denomination, in your group of peers. Is there somebody that you can confide in? I actually had a gentleman from another denomination that used to call me every Monday morning and say, Terry, how are you? How are you doing? I'm not a part of your tribe, so you can say anything you want. It's not going back anywhere. And interesting, because God used that 1 year after I had been released from responsibilities. The gentleman who was responsible behind the scenes called me. He said, I want to talk to you. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't want to be mean or rude, but I don't want to have this conversation. He said, no, you don't understand. I need to see you. So we met at a local Tim Hortons, and this very powerful man looked at me and he said, I'm sorry. I was wrong. And what he didn't know is that the individual who had every Monday called me when I was released, this individual left that church, went to another church. That was the church he went to. And God used that to then minister to this man in his brokenness. And we're not best friends, but I have no animosity. God's released me from that. I've forgiven him. And we have, when I see him, we chat. So God can redeem all of that.
It's incredible, listening to you right now. I know people's hearts are being filled with strength and a vision for what could God do if I just, stay the course, stay close to him, and get the support I need. Terry, you are in an incredible role at Inspire FM. Tell us about your role. Tell us about everything happening at Inspire FM.
Well, God is a redeeming God. And if you had told me, 3 or 4 years ago that I would be in this role, I would have laughed at you. A very good friend of mine, Dr. Jeff Lutz, had started International Harvesters for Christ Evangelistic Association and Harvesters Radio. And over 20 years, he bootstrapped this ministry to the point where there were 8 frequencies, the 3 radio stations, Moncton, Halifax, and Charlottetown. And during COVID, the Lord took him home, 58 years old, very suddenly. I was sucker punched when I got the call. 2 years later, through a series of events, God made it very clear to me after a very fitful night with very little sleep. I woke my wife up in the middle of the night muttering, I think I'm supposed to do this. I think I'm supposed to do this. At any rate, I accepted the challenge, and I feel very much like Caleb. He said to Joshua, I'm 85 years old, but I'm as vigorous now as I was 45 years ago. Look it up in Joshua 14. And he said, I'm taking this mountain, Hebron. And that's what he did. And so God has definitely, I have a very clear sense that God's called me to take all of the experience of 40 plus years, all of the failures, all of the joys, all of the good things, and to pull that together to now what is called Inspire Radio, and to blanket the Maritimes with Christian radio. And I recognize that now it's about 35% of our population that get their media fix from terrestrial radio. Digital is podcasting in particular. So we've launched a mobile app. We've begun doing some podcasting. We're creating our own content. We have partnerships with the Canadian Bible Society, PEI for Life. We're working with other ministries now at developing new content. And we're going to get into video content in the near future. I'm actually looking for someone to hire right now, if there's anybody listening that's interested. But what's most exciting is how God is using this. For me personally, it's a new adventure, right? For the ministry to see a whole new season of growth. And it's not without its challenges. We invested $250,000 last year in upgrading technology, in rebranding. We moved into a 3,000 square foot studio. We're now, by the way, just last week, I got official word. The work permits were approved in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. We're building a $140,000 studio, and it's already been completely paid for. That's God.
That is God. And Terry, thank you for your faithfulness in all of these years serving God and now serving him through Inspire FM. We are so thankful, and we want our viewers to, tune in, go and listen in, those on the East Coast. We're so thankful for what you're doing. We know that this is part of the quiet revival we see happening in Canada. Terry, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your story and your vision for all God is doing in the Maritimes.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Well, if you're watching right now and you want quiet revival to take place in your heart or in your community, maybe something you heard in this conversation would inspire you to call our prayer partners. You know what I'm thinking about right now? If you would be willing to call our prayer partners and pray about your local pastors and leaders, pray for them. Pray that God would protect them and lead them and give them peace. Pray that they would be strengthened in a season of awakening across Canada. Call 1-866-273-4444. Well, stay with us because there's so much more inspiration to come.
Our mistakes aren't greater than the Lord's words. In every season of life, whether things are going well or things are going horribly, He is our champion, and He's the one who will redeem our pain and our shame, and He can take a mess and make it into a masterpiece.
Feeling overwhelmed by money stress and shame? You're not alone. Too many of us carry the quiet burden of debt, anxiety, and fear around finances. But there's hope, and you don't have to walk this road alone. Join us Saturday, November 22nd for Moving Forward in Faith and Finances, presented by Crossroads and Christians Against Poverty. A free event with encouragement, practical tools, and spiritual support. Go to crossroads.ca/faith and finances. Your journey forward begins here.
What an absolutely amazing interview and conversation. I love how you have such a heart to encourage pastors and people in ministry. We need it, for sure.
Absolutely.
But you and I actually were somewhere last weekend with the former Governor General of Canada, Adrienne Clarkson. Where were we,
Oh, we
Lara
were at
Watson?
the Royal Commonwealth Society for their 75th anniversary luncheon, and there we are with Royal Mounted Police on either side of us. We are so thankful. It was such a great event, and our hosts were just phenomenal.
Byron and Jill, thank you so much for hosting us, and what a great event they put on. All the details you can only imagine. There they are right there.
Yeah.
And you and I, we had Madame Clarkson at our table.
Yes, we did.
We were grilling her just a little, or maybe I was.
She was.
I'm
I
saying
went
we.
silent and nervous at first. I was like silent and nervous. Then you were like being a journalist with the journalist.
That's the most interesting interview you've ever had. Oh yeah, this was totally me.
I know.
iPad out.
And she shared something so beautiful about what it means to be Canadian.
Yeah.
And being Canadian means to belong. So that was something I really
Such a
loved
sharp
hearing.
woman.
Isn't that good?
I love that.
was.
Being
Yeah.
Canadian means to belong.
Yes.
Funny you should mention, because I think everybody in Canada knows that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to the World Series tomorrow night, Game 1.
Yeah.
So some people wonder, like, why are
What?
Canadians going so crazy
Well-
about them going to the World Series?
I'm excited.
I asked ChatGPT to give me the odds of them even qualifying.
Okay.
So there's 30 teams in the league.
Yep.
29 are American. There's only one Canadian team. So 1 in 30 over 100 is 3.3%. These are some pictures I took after they won.
Yes.
And so there's only a 3.3% chance of them making it to the World Series. So
So-
the fact that they got there is a huge
And it
deal.
means, well, now it means anything's possible. That's how I read that. You know I'm silver lining filled.
I love
so it's like
that.
anything's
Well,
possible.
the last time they won the World Series was back-to-back in 92 and 93.
I
so
remember.
I think, you remember?
I do. I was walking up Young Street at the
Were you even
celebration
born? You guys
parade.
are old enough to remember
I
that.
weren't. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No.
So we're very excited
Yes.
for that. We're excited for all that God is doing here on the
Right.
show. And thank you for watching and for standing with us. God bless you.
God bless.
Go Blue Jays.
Go Blue Jays.
That's it.
Thank you for your ongoing support of Crossroads, a supporter-funded nonprofit organization and member of the Canadian Centre for Christian Charities. Thanks to faithful people like you, we are able to continue producing 100 Huntley Street. You can write to Crossroads, P.O. Box 5100, Burlington, Ontario, L7R4M2, or visit crossroads.ca to learn more about our programs.